Today.
Hmm.
There
Oh,
you
good
go.
opportunity.
Recording has started. So if a few people join us late, that's fine. So I will just start off by introducing myself. So for anybody that doesn't know, I'm Charlotte Winterbottom from Rural Action Derbyshire, and myself and Paul Dealtre, who is on the session today and will be speaking shortly, we're technically the Feeding Derbyshire team. So Rural Action Derbyshire coordinates Feeding Derbyshire on behalf of Derbyshire County Council. So that's why we're here today, and obviously that's why we're also from Rural Action Derbyshire as well as our who we work for. So I'm just going to go through the agenda so that you can see what we're planning to include today. So if you just want to pop that up now, Paula, and then everybody can have a look. So first of all, obviously, you're all introducing yourselves
Can everybody
now.
see that? Just can everybody see the me sharing? Yeah,
Yep.
Brill, thank you.
And I'm not sure if it can go a little bit larger. It's not full screen. So if you click slideshow, okay. So, and then just on to the next one. Okay, so this is what we're going to run through today. Um, I'm going to quickly explain, I suppose, why we're here really and why we're having these webinars, just to explain a little bit about why they've come about and why sustainability, and obviously the session today around food supply and stock, why that's the first one and probably your biggest priority. We've then got Colin from Ancos, who's going to talk about their service and give you some really useful information there. We've then got Melanie Richardson from the a fairly new community pantry in Langwith, and she's going to talk about how they set up and highlighting some of the things that she's put in place and adjusted since setting the pantry up, focusing really on how that will be sustainable. And then we've got Liz, who's kindly joining us as well from Glossopdale Food Bank. And we're going to do a quick sort of question and answer session with Liz, similar to Mel, but trying to find out obviously what they do, what their model is, and some of the things that they've had to do recently as well, looking at costs and how they've had to adjust things to make sure that they can keep going and that they're not spending so much on stock. Um, we're then going to run through a resource pack that we've developed at the Feeding Derbyshire team. We're going to run through that. There's various examples in there that we hope might be useful for you. We're really keen to hear from you as well, because a lot of the tips and advice that we've put in there actually comes from Feeding Derbyshire members. So you might have your own examples as well, and we're really keen to hear those. And then we'll finish off and just explain about the other webinars as well, and give you a link to our website. So, um, just a little bit of background then from myself about why we're here, why we're having these webinars. Um, so we've been working with Derbyshire County Council and Foundation Derbyshire over the last sort of 6 months or so, because they're conscious, and I think you're conscious as well, about the fact that some of that major funding that has been received from Foundation Derbyshire through their food grants is due to come to an end this year. It's been around for about 3 or 4 years, and I know has been really crucial to many of the projects. Um, as it stands, that is going to end, and so as part of that funding, DCC and Foundation Derbyshire and ourselves were really keen to make sure that we then look at sustainability and start to sort of support you to think, how are you going to continue in the future and what might you need to look at, change, work together on in order to keep going. So that was the key reason as to why we're having them. Some of you might also know that we've also recently done a Feeding Derbyshire survey that we did over the summer. Most food projects in Derbyshire responded to that, which was fantastic. Um, so the info is really useful, and as part of that, um, the main priority that projects identified as their challenge was around costs. It was around finding stock at a reasonable price. It was the fact that donations have reduced. And there were a few other things identified as well, like finding volunteers and keeping volunteers, and also about potentially joining up with other local projects. And they're the things that we're going to cover in the future webinars. But the key thing today is to try and look at the issue around food and stock supply and whether we can give you some tips and tools and advice to help you with that. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's really all about us trying to listen to what you need and also any feedback that you might have today. It's really important for us to let you to let us know what you think, anything that you might find useful in the other webinars as well. So happy for that to go into the chat or to let Paula and I know after the meeting as well. So that's all from me for now. And I'll hand over to Colin, who will hopefully say a little bit about who he is and what the Anco service is.
Okay. Hi, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm Colin Cadell. I'm from Ancoze. I've worked in the food industry for over 40 years, and we set up Ancoze, well, around about 12 months ago because uh, I visited some projects over here in Norfolk. I live in Norwich and visited some projects over here in Norfolk, and we could see that the way that they'd been working realistically wasn't sustainable in the fact that they were expanding. So if you look at an organisation like Norwich and Norfolk, at the time they had 15 social supermarkets and they were going to expand to 26, which they've since done. And they their model had been totally reliant on donations and free stock, and we could see that the bigger they got, that it was going to be harder. And I went to an event where 15 of the social supermarkets were there, and talking to them, they were all saying that people were saying, we can't continue to give you this product. We'll sell it to you, but we can't give it to you. Now, I haven't done a presentation today for one reason is because that's totally out of date. Things have moved so quickly over the last 12 months. I haven't done a presentation. Just to give you an indication why. Um, we've been working because there's no data on this area that you're all working in. Now, we estimate that nationally there are over 8,000 projects like yourselves working to give a food provision to people in need in the country. And we are now working with some large groups within that sector, and we estimate that the spend that with your projects and all the projects nationally, the spend is in the region of £50 million a year, working to provide support for people in need who need food and personal care items and household items. So the what we started as and how things are now evolved, we are now looking at a major sector within the food industry, and what we're now trying to do and what we're working to do is making some of the big players within the food sector realize the size of the need and the size of this sector. So we've been working away, talking to companies. We have some companies who we're working with. Some of you may be working with one of them because they're based in Derbyshire. So you may be aware of them. But we've been working to develop and get better pricing for you and all the other groups nationally. And what we say to companies is this is a commercial relationship. We're not looking for charity and donations, but, and there is a big but, we want the best possible price that you can give us to be able to allow you uh, and all the other groups to be able to access that pricing and supply. The other thing we were concerned about was nutritional value and the quality of some products that was being offered to groups in terms of short shelf life products or products were nearly out of date. And we didn't feel that just because somebody found themselves in need of support, that they should be prejudiced and have to accept poor quality food when they're in need. So we started off talking to a wholesaler who some of you will know, called SOS Wholesale. And so SOS Wholesale have given us prices, um, and for you as groups, we've negotiated prices with them, and also recently they made available through them the Morrison's own label range. Now, the issue with the Morrison's own label range is that as a wholesaler, they are not allowed to sell the products at the same price they are in store. So, for instance, in store, you can get a case or a pack of cereal for 75 pence, 65, 75 pence, but the wholesale size has to sell it at 165. The reason is that Morrison's is selling that cereal as a loss leader. So they don't want it to be sold in the wholesale sector. And I've had this discussion with numerous groups throughout the country, and you find the same situation with a number of retailers who all have a range which they sell as loss leaders. And the idea of that range is to draw people in. So, for instance, Aldi do an essential range, and they do a can of baked beans for 28 pence. Now, that's a loss leader. And what we've found is that Aldi have been stopping groups going in there and buying the product because they've said, the idea is that you come in and buy the loss leader, um, and then you shop the store and buy a whole range of other products. So we've found that certain groups have been stopped going into Aldi or Lidl and buying products, or if they go into them, they're limited to the amount of products that they can buy. So they may be only allowed to buy 6 cans or 6 packets or whatever. So we are working and continue to work to be able to work with wholesalers and manufacturers to bring a range of products to you that you have the opportunity to buy at affordable pricing. Just going back to that loss leader situation with Aldi and the other retailers, the realistic price to pay for a can of baked beans is around about 40 pence. Anything below that, like Asda have a 27 pence yellow label baked bean, that's a loss leader. The real price is about 40, 45 pence, which is their own label range of products. And then you get the extremes where you have Heinz selling at £1.40, but then you have a whole range, marketing support and everything was available there. So from the companies we've been working with and we've negotiated deals with, so we have SOS Wholesale, and we can set up an account with SOS Wholesale for you, and they will deliver to you. We've negotiated with them, and it may not count in Derbyshire because that's local, but depending on the size of the order, they have a small delivery charge, and we've agreed with them that they'll reduce that by 50%. So, for instance, if you order £450 worth of product across the board, they have 1,500 lines, and you can also include the Morrison's range in that, which is another 1,500 lines. The delivery charge is £17. But if you get up to £1,300 on your order, then there's no delivery charge. And so and within that order, you can include the SOS range, which covers ambient food, personal care items, and household items. And you can include the Morrison's range, which covers that area as well. We've also negotiated and have an agreement with a wholesaler called Suma Foods. Suma Foods are predominantly within the health healthcare sector, but they do supply some major retailers like the Co-op. They do a lot of vegan, vegetarian products. They have 7,000 products in their range, which cover ambient food, chill food, frozen food, personal care items, and household items. And within the personal care items, they have a lot of products that for people who may have skin issues or allergies or that. So they have a more specific range of products, what would be interesting to some people. Now they will deliver direct, and their minimum order is £350 plus VAT. And and they cover the whole of the UK. Now, on produce, I know a lot of groups have been getting produce, and hopefully, in some cases, that can be got locally. But we have an agreement with a produce supplier called Nationwide Produce, and they've given us some very competitive prices on grade A fruit and vegetables. So that's full dated, full quality fruit and vegetables, and their requirement is a full pallet. I appreciate that may be a bit big for some groups, but if some groups work together, there's an opportunity there to buy from them. And we also have an agreement with a dairy company called KDC Freshways, and they will deliver direct. They can deliver two, three, four times a week. Uh, in the supermarkets, a litre of milk is 125, 130, and the price for a whole milk, a litre of whole milk from them is 68 pence. So we've got that reduced virtually by 50%. We have seen some movement within the dairy market recently. Farm gate price has gone up. Farmers do need a high price, and that's put an impact. Butter has increased. We've seen a quite a big increase on butter. But within that KDC range, they have butter, yogurts, milk, UHT fruit juice, and they'll deliver small quantities, as I said, two or three times a week. And their requirement is, and they're very flexible on this, but they look for somebody to perhaps purchase £70 worth of stock a week. Um, but they are flexible. If it doesn't get to that, they're quite flexible. Now, with all of those people, we can set up direct accounts. So you would have a direct account with them. They would invoice you, and you would pay your own bills. So that would be a relationship. And what we've worked to is that we're working like a buying group. So the aim is to take the collective volume of all the groups nationally. So we're working with Feeding Britain. We're now working with the Trussell Trust. We're now working with the Salvation Army and other groups to take that collective volume and say to these companies, look, this is the size of the sector. Now, can you give us good prices? And then everybody within that, all of you and all the other groups throughout the country, will then benefit by taking that collective buying power and being able to negotiate lower prices. We're in the final stages of an agreement with Europe's biggest food service wholesaler called Bid Foods. They do a range of products which cover that food service sector. So is there any groups that offer meals and things like that? They do a whole range of products, right from fresh meat. They have over 4,000 lines, and they have ambient, chilled, and frozen. I'm in discussions with UHT producer. It's difficult to work direct with producers, and the reason why is that the size of their operations now has got to a point where I'll give you an example, and you all may have some of these products on your shelves. I've been talking to Princes and had 3 or 4 meetings with Princes, but their production is set that they produce one product a day. So, for instance, they may take and pack, they do tuna, say for instance tuna, and they then what they'll do is they'll produce that one product in the whole day, and they'll then want to ship full lorry loads, which is 26 pallets on a lorry, out to warehouses. So they'll go out to Tesco, Asda, and they don't have the infrastructure or the ability to supply mixed pallets. So that's why we need to go down the wholesale route to look at working with wholesalers because they can do mixed pallets across ambient food, household, and personal care items. Now, I'm also in discussion with um, Unitas. Now, Unitas is like what we're doing now, a buying group for all of the major wholesalers in the country. So I'm in discussions with them to see if we can broker a deal with them. And obviously not for yourselves, but I'm also in contact with the Scottish Wholesale um, Association as well to work and create an opportunity to give us the best possible prices that we can offer you. And the process of setting accounts up is very straightforward. None of these companies will set up an account with anybody. They will need us to go to them to agree because we don't want the prices that we've negotiated to go outside of the sector that we're working in, and that's the charity sector, trying to provide deals for people in need. We don't want it to get out to somebody who's an independent retailer taking advantage of the prices that we've been able to negotiate. And so, if there are any of those companies that you're interested in, then if you come through to me, there's only a small amount of information that I need, and then we can then work to get an account set up for you. Um, in certain regions, we have egg suppliers, so we're working to find an egg supplier to in every region. There is a national egg supplier. Haven't gone to them because they supply the multiples, and I know that if there's an issue on eggs, which there has been recently, they'll just drop us and go to the multiples and supply them, because if they don't, they're on loss of profit and other penalty clauses. So we are working to bring an egg supplier in. The egg suppliers that we have are selling a dozen eggs at £1.50, and in the supermarkets they're selling at 175, 185 for half a dozen. So we can get those sort of prices down. Uh, and ongoing, as the more companies we talk to and the more um, prices we get, we'll just send out to you. So we will send them out so you have all that information. So we'll send it out to Charlotte and to Paula, and they can then pass it on to you as we get new contracts agreed with companies. And the aim is to give you as much choice as you want, and it's entirely up to you to take advantage. You don't have to. You, and if you want to order once a month or once every 2 months, that's entirely up to you. You become the customer of that organization, and you order what you want, when you want, and in what volumes you want. It's entirely up to you. But the aim is to make sure that you have good quality, full data product, and that you have sustainability. One of the things Charlotte said at the beginning about sustainability, because by what the aim of bringing the produce supplier in, for instance, is that you would have potatoes, carrots, whatever, there every week. So it's not a case where you have them 1 week and then you have to wait 2 or 3 weeks. You would have the availability to have the products you have within your different projects there all the time. So you would have sustainability, and the people that come to use the products will know, or the projects will know that the product they're looking for is there all the time. So if they need, ambient food, or they need produce, or they need dairy, or they need personal care items like, nappies or things like that, which we know are important factors. The aim is to make it sustainable at the most and the best price for you to then pass on. One of the main things we're trying to do is, if you look at the multiple sector of the big retailers, they all work on a margin of around about 40%. If we can take that 40% away and get the prices to you less than margin, then we're getting somewhere and we're getting competitive prices for you. Okay, okay, Charlotte. Any questions from anybody?
Thanks, Colin. Thanks very much. And just to let people know before we take any questions that the resource pack that I mentioned earlier, there will be a link to Ancozy in there. And as Colin said, when we then receive any new information or updated information, we'll share that out with everybody as well, so that you're all up to date. So I suppose, as Colin said, it's what we're trying to do today is to give you information that you might use, you might take away and use in the future. By no means telling you to use certain suppliers, but it's just giving you that information and you can go away and have a think. It might be something that you even might work with another project to bulk buy something on. But it's just useful information for you to have. Paula, did you want to come in?
Can I just ask, Colin, just for the benefit of the projects, do they contact you direct for all prices, etc., or would you rather them come through us to get that
I,
information?
I will work whatever is best for you, Paula. I'm quite happy for them to come to me, or I'm quite happy for me to send everything to you. And then if there are any projects who want to, say, for instance, want to set up an account and get supply from SOS Wholesale, if they come direct to me, I can then get the account set up for them. So it's entirely, I'll work in whatever way you want. What the situation is, if we look at the whole country and the way things are, the whole country is different. Every group you speak to is different because they've all been set up in different ways. And all of the projects have been set up by great people who are volunteers or have set it up in their own way. So they're all working independently. So the aim for us is to be flexible as possible to make sure that we can cater and support every group. So, for instance, we're working from groups from Hull, the Northeast, Scotland, right down to the West Country, and they all operate differently. So, if you and Charlotte come back and say we want to operate this way, then that's how we'll operate.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And can I just say one thing? We recently did some project work with a group of there was a group of students from Australia came over from yeah, came over to the UEA from Australia, and we set them some project work. And one of the points I think Charlotte said earlier, what we found or they found in their research is that volunteers are diminishing. It's becoming harder and harder for groups right across the country to get volunteers to come in and support them.
Mm. Yeah, and I'm sure many of the groups today would probably agree with that. We've got a question. Jenny from Claycross.
Hiya.
Hello,
Um,
Jenny.
Hiya. Dead exciting, the idea of this cooperative of groups working together to get better prices. I think I just missed on the SOS wholesale, was there a minimum order and a frequency? I think I missed.
Minimum order is £450.
Yeah, okay.
Frequency is down to you. You order as many times. If you want to order weekly, you order weekly. But if
Yeah.
you only want to order quarterly, it's entirely up to you. You
And
do it how you want.
I just glanced on your website, but I was is there a way of looking at what those products are
Sure.
prior
I mean,
to
yeah,
joining the account?
I can send the price lists over to Paulo and Charlotte. They can send them out for you
That would
to
be
look,
immense.
so you can go through and just, yeah, that's there for you to go through and look at there, and then pick out from. Yeah, with the Morrison's range, there's over 3,000 lines, and you may say there's only 4 or 5 that I'm interested in. But that's the idea of it, is to
Right.
give you the choice and the opportunity. I
Okay.
mean, for instance, on OS wholesale, toilet rolls, I think, are 16p. So that may be, you may think, oh, 16p is a good price. But then you look at something else and you think, no, locally, I'm getting a better price. And so it's for you to pick and
Yeah.
choose and do what you want.
That's fantastic. I'd love to look at that. That'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Any other questions? I don't think we have. I don't think we've got any other hands raised. But thanks very much, Colin. I'm sure that
Okay.
once people
Sorry,
join.
Charlotte, I did have my
Yes.
hand up. Don't think you
Sorry.
could see me here. It's Al from Edge, so Staveley Community Pantry. We've been using SOS Wholesale and just wanted to make people aware your first order takes about a week to go through because you don't have online access and they need to set you up. And then it is pro forma payment via bank transfer only. So if you're used to making card payments, that obviously could be a bit of delay with that. And they also do short you occasionally. So you might put an order in. That money then sits in your account until next you place an order or you can get a refund. But I made the mistake of making a really big order for my first order and then didn't have enough money left in my account to spend the rest of the money sitting with SOS until I'd hit the minimum levels. So you have to be quite tactful about how you place your orders. So it is a minimum order of 450, but if they can't deliver everything in that order, they'll still ship the order. So then you get left with money. And they told me that the Morrison's stuff was a minimum of one pallet layer.
That is correct. They will only do that on one pallet layer. That is correct.
Yeah. So you just need to bear that in mind. If you know, it's great for stuff like beans, but you might not need a pallet of cooking sauce, a pallet layer of each type of cooking sauce.
Yeah.
Thanks, Al. That's really useful, and I think it is really useful to hear from people from the horse's mouth.
Dealing with SOS has been absolutely brilliant. Their team are great. They're based up in Barnsley for their customer service team. They're really proactive on the phone. And once you place your first order, you do get an online account, so you can place the order online and see the live pricing.
I will say one thing, Al. If you're having some concerns about like some of the things you just raised, if you want to come back to me on them, and then I'll speak to the MD at SOS to see if we can get those changed and get things improved in the way that the service is coming from them.
I think it's just the new way of dealing with wholesalers that you might not be used to.
Sure.
I certainly wasn't. So, for example, their prices, if they show something is in stock, the website only updates 4 times a day, or on the phone with customer services from their warehouses. So if other people have placed orders early in the day, and you don't place your order till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, you're on data that could be 6 hours out of date.
Yeah.
And that's when you miss out on items.
Yeah. And on Morrison's, what we're trying to do is negotiate directly with Morrison's so that we'll get direct shipments from Morrison's instead of going through a third party. And hopefully that will then bring the prices down as well, and also reduce the need to buy in full pallet layers.
Thanks, Colin. We do need to probably move on now to the next to Melanie. But one thing, obviously, because it's a fairly large group of our food providers, I think we have about 70 odd in our latest list. And to get information out to people frequently is quite time consuming. So one thing we probably will do, if people are interested in things like prices from Ancozy or others that we'll be having in the resource pack, is probably set up WhatsApp groups, because that's the easiest way of getting information like that out quickly. So if you're happy to be in a WhatsApp group to get regular information about prices that might be from Ancozy or other suppliers that we find out about, please pop that in the chat that you're happy to be in that, and then we will set that up so that we can shoot information out much quicker than you would via email. So thanks, Colin. Thanks very much.
Okay.
And obviously feel free to leave us now, because we've got other people coming along. And Melanie, over to you. So Melanie is from the Langwith Community Pantry.
Hello, are you there? Sorry, you're frozen, Charlotte. So I've got to say, I'm absolutely terrified. Right, so I am absolutely terrified. So I am going to read from my notes on the screen. So anyhow, please excuse me if I'm a little bit robotic, because I am terrified of you all. But just before I start reading from my notes, I just want to say, how did I get to here, from going from a commercial background to ending up working in food insecurity and running this pantry? And I know there's been a lot over the years. There's been talk of, I don't understand and I don't come from the right background, and what does that matter? I am absolutely not sure. So I came from a very commercial background, and I was running a 15-bedroom hotel. After 12 years of doing that, we basically got our business taken away from us. And I ended up living in a 15-bedroom hotel, not being able to trade. I had my 9-year-old granddaughter living with us, and we had no money, nothing. We had no money for food. We had no money for heating. And I thought that there was always going to be a safety net. And I went to the right people and was told, no, you are a company director. You should have made provision for this, and you can have nothing. So this was before the pandemic, and where do you go? There was nothing. I couldn't go to a food bank. I went to the job centre because I was quite happy to go and work, and was told at Christmas I would have to wait for 7 weeks before I could even get a single payment. So that galvanised me into ending up where I am now. And so when people say to me, you have to ask for membership, you have to start taking people's details, you have to see if they're eligible, my answer will always be, rightly or wrongly, no. I will not ask if they need this food, or if they are eligible, or if they're on benefits. So yes, sometimes I am a little bit hard when it comes to people asking for things like that, but that's because I was there and I know how awful it really, really felt. So how did I get there? Let me find my notes. So I got there because, the background to how we started out with the pantry. So I started looking at how a pantry could become sustainable about 2 years ago. We were heading out of the pandemic and into a world that had changed the perception of who needed and wanted to utilise surplus food. It was no longer frowned upon. Many people had felt the need to use a food bank during this time, and the restrictions on access had, in the main, been removed. So here we are at the beginning of 2022, and an opportunity arises within Bassetlaw to create something that would allow access to surplus food at a very low cost. At this time in Bassetlaw, there was no affordable food provision in place that was easily accessible. So we started to look at where would be the best places to get started. My colleague at that time had a background in primary schools and set out talking to the individual schools and asking if they felt that their parents and local community could benefit from such a scheme. On agreeing to the scheme, each school was given 8 weeks of us running the hub, providing the food, delivering it, selling it, and building the confidence of the school staff and volunteers to take over after the initial 8 weeks were over. Once we'd established the right level of weight for the needs of the individual schools, the school team of volunteers were in place and confident, fair share contracts and legislation was met, and everyone was provided with a commercial fridge and a freezer so that they could then run sustainably. I never actually left a school until I knew that they were covering the fair share costs and had a little in reserve. And when possible, they were supplied with additional stock that they could give away if fresh and short dated, or held in stock if it was ambient. By the summer of 2023, we had 20 independent running, serving their own communities. So I knew at that point that it was possible to make these sustainable on a small scale. Transitioning from a hub running 1 to 2 hours a week to a pantry running for multiple hours over a week is a big step for any of us. So now we have to build in the management of volunteers and paid staff if that is what is needed to make these run efficiently. So how did we get there? We were running our community hub out of the hall at our parish council in Whaley Thorns. The old caretaker's house became available at the beginning of 2024, and we met with the councillors who had been very supportive of the food hub, and they said that we could trial the pantry at no charge as long as the utility bills didn't get too large. There was an emphasis, however, that we needed to be running this for the community. So why set up in Whaley Thorns? After all, where is it? Well, the answer, I'm sure, will be very familiar to you all. It's a bit of a forgotten village. It's quite large due to the amount of people living there when employment in the area was mining. We are now an ex-mining community, which falls within the top 10% of economic deprivation in England. It has 2 independent local stalls that sell low nutritional value, high sugar foods that has to be sold at a high price for the shopkeeper to make a living. We have a large proportion of older people and also those under 15 that are all being supported by a very small number of people of working age. So in the first 3 months of opening, it was very much a make do and let's see what happens. We brought down a counter and fridges from the farm that were no longer being utilised. We had a soft loan to purchase the shelving and got going. So after a meeting with Charlotte and Paula, they said that additional funding was available to assist with the running cost. After putting together a business plan to them, it really galvanised my belief that we can make these pantries run efficiently and sustainably, given the right support. The funding allowed us to pay back the soft loan early and look at repackaging more dry goods to give a varied choice to customers more quickly. We always intended to repackage goods, but we were very aware of the implication of doing this and it could be a bit tricksy. So now we buy in large quantities of rice, pasta, lentils, etc., which is proving a winner with most of our customers. We also invested in vegetable racking to showcase some of the excellent stock coming through at the moment. With regards to membership or eligibility, I don't do any of that, and I know that that is very controversial. But we run as a normal shop that's just a little bit quirky. Every customer gets to choose a bag of food of their choice for £5. From the stock that comes in, be it from FareShare or any of our supermarket partners, we decide before opening what can go in the bag, what can go for an additional cost, and what will be put away for leaner times. This makes for a varied shop, and inevitably customers always buy extras. I can foresee, however, a time in the coming year where the cost of a bag is going to rise, and this is inevitable, but still, it's still going to be a very affordable shop. The budget that was put forward to Feed in Derbyshire is on track to slightly exceed what was proposed, given we don't have any disasters. I work on adjusting these costs on a weekly basis so that I'm not caught out selling something for less than I bought it for. There have been times when I haven't checked the price against say Aldi, and customers soon spot it and put me right. Just recently, I've been priced out of the market on cheese and butter, so can no longer justifiably stock these. And milk, I'm only making 10 pence on, but I will continue to try and stock milk as the local shop charges £2.40 for 4 pints. So even if I have to do it at cost, I will do my utmost to continue that service. Despite looking at the wholesalers for dry stock, I can find no cheaper option than Aldi. So they used to allow us to put in bulk orders, but now we have to do a normal shop. I know that Colin has just said that there's a restriction. I have never found a restriction on anything that I've bought from an Aldi. And I do sometimes go in and spend £1,500 and have never been stopped. I will say that I can't make this model work without using FareShare, and there is no alternative. By using the low-cost products from FareShare, this allows me to supplement the shop with bought product from other sources, be it His Church, Aldi, Booker's, and others. So we're not a million miles away from where we first started in the beginning. We were buying large amounts of tinned and dry goods. We had a few people that came in every week and wiped the shelves clean, and I know that every pantry has similar issues and they deal with it in different ways. We still have a stock of these products, but they're put out in small quantities. We had a drop off in the customers that came every week to take the tinned and dry product in large quantities, but they've now stopped coming, and our regular customers have said that they're glad we changed the model. We now stock a lot more fruit and veg, and about 20% of our customers come in every single week just for that choice and variety. The majority of our customers now use us as a first shop, and what they can't get from us, they then go on to either shop locally in a supermarket or do their online shop. So the current situation at the moment is I'm on track to have run the pantry in a sustainable way by the end of February 2025. As we are now, I have £3,000 of available funds, but a large chunk of that will be spent next week on stock from his church, which should see me through to the new year. The whole idea of doing this exercise for us was to remove the reliance away from food banks and affordable food provision, and not to need a constant funding stream to keep people fed with nutritional food. Does that mean that we never apply for funding? Well, in my opinion, no. I believe that funding should be sought to enable the pantries to offer a better service. It also allows for a buffer to support the emergency food bags and deliveries. Sorry. So that the deliveries can be taken out when needed, and just to allow a cushion so that we're not constantly worrying about surviving for another 6 months. Anybody that's running a pantry or affordable food project will know that we're not just a source of affordable food. We're a chat room, we're a coffee shop, we're an advice service, and a warm space. Any questions?
Oh, thanks, Mel. And I think we can all see, and I'm sure everybody would agree, that it's very close to your heart. And I'm sure many of the other projects are very similar. In fact, in our last meeting we had with some of the pantries, we had quite a few tears, didn't we? And not they want to see that at all, but we do. But it just shows how much everybody cares. And obviously we wouldn't have as many people here today, would we, if they didn't? So thank you, and I'm sorry that we've made you. I'm sorry that we've made you.
Not to worry. It's just it gets me.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah.
We shouldn't have to do this.
No,
none of us should.
We shouldn't. But thank you, and just as far as your last point about funding, I can't say for definite, and I totally agree. There will always be some funding, and there will always be some grants out there, and you're all very, very, very good at getting those. I think the reason that, as I said at the start, that we're trying to do this is just that large amount of funding that has been around. We just need to be realistic that that's not necessarily going to be around, and it's just thinking about and doing exactly what you've done and many of the others, thinking about, well, how can we be a bit savvier and a bit more prepared.
And I think for me the easy bit is making it sustainable. You know, I can look at it and see the logic, as many of us can, that yes, I can make a bag for £5 and I can cover the cost on it. It's just all those extras that we all struggle with. I have managed to cover a member of staff within that pricing structure, and at the end of February, if anybody wants it, I will make that spreadsheet available to all, so you can all see exactly where the money went. And you know, I'm always open to anybody coming for a visit and a chat. It's just that, is there enough funding for all those extras, all those things that we never know what's coming? You know, Colin's already said that the pricing of milk, cheese, butter, it's all gone up. I can't afford to even buy it in to sell it on at cost anymore, because the customers can't afford to pay for it. So yeah, it's just always knowing it's nice to have a buffer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you, Mel. There's some lovely comments in the chat.
Thank you.
And I know we need to get on to Liz. Has anybody got any questions for Mel, or we could maybe do them after Liz and then have a little group question? I don't think there's anyone with any hands up anyway.
Or even if anybody just wants to WhatsApp where everybody's in the group,
absolutely.
WhatsApp, and I'll just reply.
Thanks, Mel. That was wonderful and really, really heartfelt.
Charlotte, could
Yeah.
I can't find where you put your hand up if you want to say something.
Oh, right. If you just go down to the bottom, the little
Yeah.
panel where it says chat,
Yeah.
and then and click on that love heart.
Oh, it's the love heart.
Yeah, and then there's a raised
Ah.
hand bit there.
Ah, right. Okay. I see. I just wanted to personally say to Mel, thank you, because without Mel and the team at Rhubarb Farm, we would never have set up our food hub. So I just want to say that you were an inspiration and it enabled us to almost be sustainable, but just to say thank you, because you ran it for 6 weeks for us, gave us the know-how, and you made it possible so that we could continue doing what we obviously know there's a need for in Creswell. So thank you.
So, and again, if you want to go over to that pantry model, more than happy to come back in.
Thanks, Mel.
Oh, thank you, Helen. Okay, so Paula, I think we need to put the presentation back up now, don't we? And then myself and Liz will have a little chat about the Glossopdale Food Bank. So bear with us on this because we're trying to do it as a bit of a Q&A. So hopefully it will bring Liz up and you can see Liz talking as well at the same time. So
you might even get to glimpse of
Can you see
cat
it?
passing by as well.
there you are. There you are.
can see
So what we thought would be useful, I'm just going to ask Liz a few questions and then Liz will give some information about her project, sort of background information, a bit like Mel, as to how she ended up at the project and what they do, but also some of the challenges that they've had and how they've started to, I suppose, get through some of those. So, Liz, in terms of Glossopdale Food Bank, can you tell us a little bit about the food bank, where you are, how you operate, and some of the challenges that you've faced?
Yeah, just moving on from Mel ever so slightly as well. Just this is just like an overview. I did a talk last week to some guides about what we do, and one of the things that I was very clear about is nobody should ever be ashamed to actually access food banks, food pantries. I worked for the government for 37 years before I came into this role, and I worked in a court, and we used to have a secret cupboard. I mean, it wasn't very secret, but in the office, well, in the kitchen, where we could put dry goods and tin goods, because our lower grades were on minimum wage. And I worked in the centre of Manchester, so you can imagine if somebody's only taking home £1,200 a month and they're paying £900 of that in rent and transport costs and things like that, there's not an awful lot of money left over for food. So anyway, so I manage Glossopdale Food Bank. We're based in Glossop and Hadfield, and we cover the Glossopdale area and surrounding areas. We're a self-referral food bank, and again, like Mel, we ask no questions. If somebody comes to us and says they need food, the trustees' view is they need food. Obviously, we do get questions from people saying, the one that we've been asked several times, I've seen somebody in an £80,000 car picking up, and it's like, well, how do you know it's for them? Could be a social worker, could be a relative, could be anybody, could have just bought the car and been made redundant. We don't ask any questions other than somebody's name and the size of the family, so we know what food they actually require. I started this job in January of this year, and I was told by our chair, oh, it's quite an easy job. It's just keeping all your plates spinning. It's been a very eventful year. Just after I started, we were informed by DCC that we would have to start paying rent on our lockup, and it's an incremental rise. So this year we've just literally signed the contract last week because had negotiations going on. We've got quite a large lockup, and we used to be a minor occupier in there, but we've now taken over as major occupier, and DCC won't allow us to sublet or grant a license to anybody else. So we're on our own when it comes to paying the rent. So this year our rent is £2,995, and in year 3 it'll rise to a full commercial rent of just under £13,000 a year. So luckily I've managed to get some funding for next year. So what we've needed to do is obviously future-proof ourselves and make the changes now, which will ensure that we can afford the rent going forward. We've also seen a significant increase in the cost of food, for example, and I never ever thought in a world of memories that I would know I would be tracking the price of a tin of corned beef. So in March, a tin of corned beef was £2.09, and it's now around £3.50. So this is something that we've had to take out of our bags. It's thinking out of the box. Sometimes with some of our clients, we had somebody who would regularly pick up a parcel. Then we found out they were hoarding and not using the food. So I was speaking to one of our food clubs in the area, and we agreed that we would pay them for them to actually purchase the food that we knew that he actually needed, rather than just keep throwing tins at him that he wasn't using and they were backing up in his kitchen. We've also had the impact of the local children's centres. One has closed down, so we used to operate from Hadfield Children's Centre free of charge, 2 days a week for an hour. This is distributing the parcels. That's we were told earlier on in the year that that would be closing, so we've had to find alternative accommodation, and it's quite difficult because you obviously need somewhere that's discreet to operate from, and trying to find somewhere that can offer storage as well. So once the parcels are made up, we can keep a stock there, so we're not having to move everything in and everything out on a daily basis. So we managed to move into our new accommodation in Hadfield at the end of August. Unfortunately, I had a holiday booked at that point. Came back on my holiday, and it was like everything's moved in, but we've just been given notice that we now can't operate out of Glossop Children's Centre. So we've had to find new accommodation in Glossop as well. And we've just moved in last week into our new accommodation, but unfortunately they can't offer us any storage. So at the start of a 2-hour session, we have to bring in around 30 bags of food, and at the end of the session then move out anything that we've not used back to the lockup, or if we have a rush of clients attending, we have, one of us, either myself or my colleague, will have to drive down to the lockup and bring up more bags. So it's just escalated out of all proportion this last 9 months, I would say. But my view is I've come in, and although I've got the compassion and people need the food, I need to be able to provide that food, and to be able to do that, I have to treat this as a business at my end, at the business end. So so those are some of the challenges we've actually faced at Glossopdale.
Thanks, Liz. And I know you've done some of the things that you've done to try and overcome those. I know you've done, like you mentioned about the corned beef, you've done a huge amount of work in, I suppose, adjusting what you would give out in a parcel, to try and be realistic about the costs, but at the same time, not want to reduce its quality and obviously stop people from coming.
Yeah, so to give you some figures, in the financial year 23-24, we spent £47,000 on additional food. That was just on the food alone. In addition to that, before I started, we were in a reasonably good position financially. And we were also supporting vouchers and payments to schools and other organisations to assist them. Ahead of the budget review at the start of this financial year, I got together with some of our more experienced volunteers. So these are 2 ladies who literally run our lockup, and a couple of volunteers who work in the donation points. We also did an exit poll at one of the donation points to see what people found useful, what they didn't find useful, if they had any comments about what were in the bags. I mean, obviously we weren't saying what would you like in the bag, because a bottle of Chardonnay and a fillet steak, you know, we can't sustain that. Using the information and taking into account of the nutritional information and nutritional requirements, we were able to streamline the parcels and reduce the amount of bespoke parcels, because we had quite a lot of bespoke parcels. So it'd be people who'd say, well, in the I don't really like Aldi beans. So they've been purchasing Heinz's beans and things like that and we had quite a lot of that going on, to be perfectly honest. We also had in our family bags. I'm sorry, I'm reading off some notes. I've got bullet points. We had in one of our family parcels, we'd have beans with sausages, a meat meal, 2 tins of fish, a tin of cold meat, and a tin of either hot dogs or meatballs, and then either mac or cheese, spaghetti and sausages, or ravioli. So as you can see, there's an awful lot of meat-based meals in there. And basically, it's emergency food for 3 meals a day for 3 days. So we agreed to withdraw the tin of cold meat and the beans with sausages. And then we also supplemented the spaghetti with sausages or ravioli with additional meat items that have been donated, but we don't purchase them. We put them in if we've got them. Single clients also said that they got too much pasta and that a bag of rice was too big. And obviously due to fuel poverty, they were struggling to cook it. So we've now moved over. So in single parcels, we've put a single sachet of microwave rice. So that saved money as well. We also used to purchase coffee. Now, my view, even as an individual for myself, is coffee is a luxury. We still distribute what is donated, which is quite a considerable amount, but we've had to limit our clients to 1 jar or tin a month. And we keep a record of this. Just to give you an example, we had one bespoke parcel where we were purchasing oat follow-on milk for a child. No one knew if it was a medical requirement. It had been asked for and there'd been no investigation, but at that point we didn't have any financial difficulties. So I contacted the client, and before I even had chance, I just, hi, I'm Liz from Gloucester Food Bank. I'm just ringing up about the oat milk that we purchased. And she said, I was going to ring you. We've got ourselves into a financial situation. We don't need it anymore. Thank you so much. It's been such a help. And then they went on to give us a financial donation as well. So it was a real nice success story of what could have been a very difficult conversation. It was nice to know that us being able to supply that milk for them had such a difference to them. We've had to convince the volunteers at the lockup that we don't need huge amount of stock. We can all, if we're starting to run out of things, we can get it. It's not a problem, and it's we can top up very quickly. And stock is dead money, basically. And it may be that we can, you know, rather than having, we've just done harvest, and we've got so many baked beans, it's unbelievable. So we split them into months and then use them on we do proper stock rotation and stuff like that. So this was all before the start of the financial year. So then I sat down with our treasurer and we agreed that we would reduce our food budget to £3,000 a month. Sorry, my cat's just wrangling a reindeer off the windowsill. I monitor every Monday morning. I check back to the bank account, look at what we've spent. If there's any anomalies, check what we've spent the money on, and then everything's like cross-referenced at the end of the month. So we had a reduction of £11,000 on what was spent last year. It was our budget, and we're actually currently well under budget at the moment. We have seen quite a significant reduction in the referrals up to the last couple of weeks. As soon as the temperatures dropped, our clients have increased again. So on top of all this, we realised that we needed to actually look at our fundraising as well. So we ran a new fundraising campaign delivering leaflets to 15,000 houses within the Glossopdale area, and that was done by our volunteers. We've got a around 70 volunteers. We don't struggle at all for volunteers. And we've increased our income by about £7,500 a year by doing that leaflet campaign. One of the other things we had to do, and I was against this, but the committee agreed that they were going to do it initially. So we worked with the local food club, sorry. So we would give our clients what we call guest tickets. They could then take them to the food club, hand them over. Once a month, I would go and collect the tickets, and we would pay the cost of the 2 bags of food, which is like £2.50, to the food club. So the clients didn't have to. But that then ensured that they got fresh fruit, vegetables, occasionally fresh meat, food, refrigerated food, because all we can do is provide ambient food. I have a real issue with children not getting fruit and veg. And I've pushed again for us to be able to reinstate this, and we've got some funding to do it. So we've got funding now till the end of September. And once we get to the end of September, if our finances are as they are at the moment, I will push again for us to continue that. And I would like to then expand that to one of the other food clubs in this area as well, so that we're covering the whole of the area. It sounds terrible. What we provide, it fills bellies, but it's not fresh fruit and veg. And, you know, I've got a 7-year-old granddaughter who loves fresh fruit and vegetables. And I just think every child's right should be that they have fresh fruit and vegetables. So that's how we've tackled the challenges. We didn't get any particular negative feedback from our clients, though no doubt they discuss it amongst themselves, apart from the coffee. So you know, that we're doing hampers at the moment. We've had quite a lot of interest from local groups about us doing hampers, so we've got quite a lot of stuff coming. I'm going to say a hamper, it's like a tin of ham, tin of salmon, some hot chocolate. You know, it's things that a lot of people would take for granted, but will actually make a difference at Christmas. We put a gift in there, and we're being able to utilize that money that we've saved slightly to boost what we would normally put in the hampers.
Thanks, Liz. I think we've ended up covering most of the things. I've just written some really useful tips down from what you've been through, that we can add even into the tip section that I'm going to go through later. I think you know, when you were talking about people hoarding certain food, and the leaflet campaign, the exit poll, that I think they're all really useful things that we can we can add into our resource pack, and everyone else can then think whether or not it's the type of thing that would work for them. Obviously, like you said, you've got a large amount of volunteers, so some of those things are things that work well when you have, but not necessarily that well when you haven't. The only other thing I was going to quickly mention, you did talk about the voucher scheme to get fresh food for those for people that are coming to the food bank. The other thing, Feeding Derbyshire, I've had a quick conversation with you about is a voucher scheme to potentially move people on that are ready, that are financially able, because you do have citizens advice coming in, don't you?
Yeah.
And so that is something that we're potentially going to work with Liz on, which is looking at how, if you have had clients that have been coming to a food bank for a while, and they have had support from CAB to look at their maximising their income, can you look at a way of moving them on to an affordable food club in your area, if there is one?
We have done. There are certain clients that I have engaged with that we know that have moved on, but there are certain clients that don't. They consistently come in week after week after week, and I've had to have some difficult conversations with people, but I have certain people in mind that I would like to move on, because I know that it would be a benefit for them, but that I'm not sure that they can see it from their point of view at the moment. So yeah, I'm really interested in looking at that work and moving forward with that.
Yeah, it's not going to be straightforward by any means, and I'm sure other projects would agree that. But I think where we can, again, with the theme of sustainability, that it would be good to trial it and see how something goes. So thanks, Liz. I think we're done with your Q&A. You're off the hook. I can't see. My view has sort of gone, so I
We've
can't
got a couple of questions. Mel's got her hand up.
Right. Okay.
So I really like the idea of the voucher scheme, but I'm not sure round here on the Derbyshire side who would be the nearest actual food bank to us that could potentially feed in. I know where we are from the Notts side, but from the Derbyshire side, is there anybody within this group or anybody that you know of that can actually feed into us that's near enough?
That's a really good point, Mel. Towards the end, I'm just going to share a link to our website because we've finally got a map live now of all of the food provision of the food providers that are within the Feeding Derbyshire network. So you can actually go on there now and see yourselves, but you can also see who's nearby. So that might help with that. But you're right, there might not necessarily be someone that nearby where it would work. And I suppose that's the thing with all of these suggestions. It's whether it would work for you, isn't it? Obviously Liz is in an area where there are a couple of food clubs, not that, within the area. So it can work. But all the projects are maybe a bit more rural and it wouldn't necessarily. But we could possibly have I'm just thinking, Paula, that maybe the food bank that they do at Soulcare might not be that far. Oh, actually, no, I'm totally wrong there. But we can maybe have a chat with you offline about it, Mel, and see if there's any that would work.
Yeah. The other thing when Liz was talking about fresh fruit and vegetables, now I looked into the Fresh Street project with the voucher scheme. Unfortunately, it wasn't for us, and we weren't a good fit for them, and they weren't a good fit for us. But I wonder if maybe a connection with Liz, if get onto the Fresh Street website and see if they want to fund something in your area.
Sorry, my husband's just removing the cat out the Christmas tree.
There's a project called Fresh Street.
Yeah. We don't have storage for fresh fruit and veg at the moment ourselves.
Yeah, don't work like that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll have a look at it anyway. I'll have a look. What we have been doing, because we've recently moved into the Labour Club. The Labour Club is a warm space on a Sunday, and the fresh fruit and veg is supplied by one of the local food clubs. Then we're in there on a Tuesday, so quite often there has been potatoes, carrots, onions, bananas, apples as such left, and we've then been able to pass that on to our clients. So we've got some thoughts about it and some plans and what have you, but I'll have a look because anything that will help us to do that would be magnificent, really. So
sorry to interrupt, but I'm just conscious we're going to run out of time because I think it's been so brilliant listening to all of you talk, directly about your projects, and that's what we wanted to hear. We wanted to hear the challenges, but also the things that you've done. So really grateful of that, Mel and Liz. I can't see the participants. Unfortunately, I can't see if anybody else had their hand raised. So what I might do is just move on now to the next section, and then if anyone did have any questions, either put it in the chat or we'll cover it at the very end. So what we're going to now look at is the resource pack that we've developed at Feeding Derbyshire. A lot of it is in conjunction with Feeding Britain, who we are a partner with, which is the national sort of food insecurity network. So we've developed a resource pack. I will scan through it and just explain some of the key headings. It's for you though, so it's for you to go away and look at it. We would love feedback on it, and what other things that you might want to find out. Is there anything particular in there that you'd like to know more of? Potentially, might you want to work with other projects in your area, say, on some of these things? Um, like I said, I'm conscious of time as well. Another thing that we've done, and I know a lot of you have done as projects, is we've come up with a template shopping list because I know a lot of you find that useful. A lot of you are doing that on your social media, which is highlighting what you're short of and putting that out there on your Facebook, etc. It's we've heard from you that that is really effective. So we've developed one of those. If people want access to that, it will be in the resource kit. You will have to tweak it for yourself, obviously. But we think that is a useful thing for you to use. Um, I'm just going to share the full resource kit and then you will see what is in it. So hopefully everyone can see that now. I'll just scroll up the top. Sorry, I'm going to skip through this because I just don't want to miss out on some of the other things that Paul is going to run through. So there's lots of wholesalers in there. Again, a lot of this has come via Feeding Britain, so it is it's been reviewed nationally. Paula has updated everything within the last few weeks as well, so it is current. It shouldn't be out of date. Lots of information in here, lots of links. We'd be keen that if you do look into any of these, it'd be really good to get some feedback, a little bit like Al did before around SOS. So there are your supermarkets and your suppliers. We've got information in here for obviously non-food items as well, because we know how important they are to you. And then just carry on to scroll down. Non-food items are here. There are some really useful tips here that we've come up with. These are all from Feeding Derbyshire members. So this isn't just things that we've picked up, from say another area or come up with ourselves. These are from the horse's mouths. We'll be adding some things in there that you've told us today. So it's going to get a bigger and bigger list. But I'm also going to, well, I might not actually. I might just actually look at these tips now as we're on here. So, for example, one of the things that we've mentioned in here is to come together as a local network where possible. There might not always be other projects nearby to you, but just as an example, in the last 6 months or so in Chesterfield, we've supported and been part of a project that the new mayor, Jenny Flood, who has just had to come off this call, she was here previously. She has wanted to bring all of the food projects in Chesterfield together to form a local network. That's already had a really great impact. They've done some food drives. They've got some donation boxes within Chesterfield Football Club. And coming up with a bit of a plan of different things that they want to do. So that's a great example. Again, not everyone will be able to do it or even want to do it, but it's an example of what can be done. Liz talked about harvest. Obviously, that's really effective when you can do that as well. The socials we've just mentioned around the shopping list. We are regularly contacted by businesses who want to do in-house donations themselves, and we often will take that stock and share it out amongst Feeding Derbyshire projects. So contact local businesses in your area, see if any of them are wanting to do that. It seems to be something that they find really effective, something easy for them to do, but then easier for their sort of corporate social responsibility for them to get some nice photos and show them handing the food over. I'll skip through some of these, but what I have said is obviously if you're interested in trying some of those tips out but don't necessarily know where to start, contact us. And I'll stop sharing this now because this is going to be going to you today or tomorrow, and you can have a look through at your leisure. And as I say, please give us any feedback. So over to Paula now, because Paula's done some work, some really detailed work on costings of supply and stock. I know Liz mentioned before that you've been doing a lot of that yourself, but Paula has been doing some work on that, and she'll explain that now. And I think what we're really keen to do is to find out whether that's something that you as a group would like us to carry on doing. So over to you, Paula.
Hi everybody. So obviously Colin did go into detail about SOS Warehouse, and obviously Al mentioned a few things from Edge. He's already been using them, but I suppose I did pull up SOS myself because they are local and that they are based in Derby. They work heavily within the charity sector as well, and we have used them for some things for a pilot that we were trialing. So really, just to let you know that they do offer free delivery, and the order has to be over £900. And while some of the products that they do are higher priced elsewhere, they have the convenience of avoiding trips to multiple suppliers, and the ability to source a wide range of projects in one place makes SOS a practical choice for you. And you could also order the cheaper items you need collectively and maybe split them if that's something that you could do with other groups. So if there's like, say, I don't know, tinned ham was a really good price from them, you could kind of collectively buy something like that as a group. They do have offers as well, end of line, stuff coming in end of life, and they do keep you really well updated with those as well. You can set up an account direct with SOS. You don't need to go through Ankos if you didn't want to. I'm not sure how the prices differ between Ankos and SOS if you're buying direct through SOS and not through Ankos. So that would be something that you'd need to kind of speak to SOS about. And like Al says, the customer service team there are really lovely and helpful. So the other organisation that I found as well, which I don't know if anybody's heard of, is Approved Food. They're based in Barnsley, and they do short life items, and some of their items start from as little as 1p, and you can buy direct from them, and the minimum order is £55 for free delivery, so you don't have to spend loads and loads of money with them to get free delivery. And if you've got like a hybrid shop, some of the things that you could buy from them, you could possibly sell on and make some money, to put back into the project. So it's very hit and miss. I'll be totally honest with you. I was looking yesterday and they had serene raspberry and white chocolate cakes for 1p. For a pack of 6 or 12, whatever they come in, so that it can be really random, but you can drop on it of some really good stuff. So that's just a little bit about Approved Food for you to have a look at. And again, all these are on the resource pack. So just going through. You've done the tips, haven't you, Charlotte? Yeah. So what I've done here for everybody as well, I've done like a costing comparison of like what some of our projects said were their most wanted items. And just to give you a glance, we all know who's going to come out the cheapest of them all, which is obviously going to be Aldi's. However, when you do look at the overall costs of them, there's not massive differences, with the, well, no, it's not actually Aldi, it's Tesco that came out cheaper. Sorry, Charlotte's saying I'm breaking up.
Yeah, maybe just turn your camera off and turn the camera off. It might help. Oh, you're muted. You're muted. Oh.
Is that any better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't remember where I'm at now. So basically, I've done like a tally of that comparison list of all of the 4 chosen supermarkets, and wholesalers there for you just to have a look at a glance. As you can see, Tesco comes out the cheapest, and then obviously the wholesalers are more expensive, but just to bear in mind the convenience maybe, and the prices do go up and down from time to time. So I suppose from our point of view, it was just kind of wanting to know if these kind of exercises would be of any interest, would be of any use to you guys in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Paula. And that point is, so the reason it was a little bit small on screen, but the spreadsheet that Paula was showing was it was a what we'd called a shopping list that we'd pulled together with some feedback from some of the Feeding Derbyshire members of probably the most common items that projects were buying. Um, and as Paula said, she's done that in the last week or so of doing that cost comparison. Now, we can do that, and we could do it more frequently for you, and obviously provide that out to you as members. It is time consuming though, and I'm sure you all know from doing similar exercises yourself, but if it's something that you would find useful so that you can be sort of thinking, oh, well, where, should we shift, should we try a different supplier? Then please let us know if you find that, you think that would be useful, and we will carry on doing that for you. It's just, if you don't, then we're probably better spending obviously our time doing something else for you. So maybe if it's something that you think it would be useful, if you could just put that in the chat, and then we can run through the chat and let you know. Oh, thanks, Liz. I've just seen that you've mentioned surplus to purpose. We have had a look at them in the past, and I think we actually did have
I
another
looked
look.
not long ago, and it looked like they were only supplying into schools. I don't know if it's changed since I last looked, Liz. I
No,
don't know.
I can find out some more information because my husband's friend is one of the trustees.
They're in Leeds, aren't they?
They're in Leeds, but I
Yeah.
think they are looking at expanding. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
maybe
we have
mind.
looked at them before.
I'll get some more info and pass it on.
Brilliant.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thanks, Liz. So I think we've whizzed through that last bit just to make sure that we don't go over time too much. But like I say, the good thing about that last bit is it's all in the resource pack that you're going to get anyway. So you can go through that at your leisure, and obviously get back in touch with us if there's anything that you maybe want to progress, or that you don't understand, or that you would like to know more about. And as Liz has just said, please let us know if there's any other ideas that you have. We don't by any means think that we've got them all. All we're really trying to do is find out what's out there, talk to yourselves and listen to what you're doing, and pull that together to share with everyone, really, because it's, as we can see from the groups that are here today, we've got some groups with paid staff where they have got a bit more time and resources to be doing some of that work, but the ones that are run just by a couple of volunteers, it is harder, and it's harder for them to spend time sourcing some of this info. So I'll try and wrap up now, just by saying thanks everyone for coming. We massively appreciate it. We know that your time is really precious, and we know some people have had to already leave and get off, back to their projects. A big thanks to Mel and Liz. It's not easy, talking on these things, and we really do appreciate it. And we hope to continue to have groups talking on each of the webinars, because we do know that it's more useful and powerful to hear from groups directly rather than us doing all the talking. As I've already said, we will be sending all this info out to you, including the presentation. Also, we've put a link up there to our website. It's recently been updated. It has got this new map on that should have all your projects on. So we do ask you to go on there, have a look at that, check all your information is correct, which we fingers crossed hope that it is. And really just keep in touch, because what we want to do with these webinars, this is the first one, is to make sure that they're useful for you and that they're valuable and that they're going to give you something to take away to help your own sustainability. So keep in touch. You know where we are, and we're happy to come out and visit if you would like us to come out and visit. And also you've had offers obviously from some of the projects today to catch up and learn from each other. We'll make sure we go through the chat, and if there's anyone that has asked for any info in there, we'll try and gather that. Just one last thing, anybody that did say they wanted to be part of a WhatsApp group around the food supply, we'll obviously, because WhatsApp is based on a phone number, we'll probably just have to get in touch with you rather than putting a phone number in the chat, which we don't want to do. We'll just need to get in touch to just to clarify which number that you want to be used on that WhatsApp. So we'll do that. We'll do that soon. Has anybody got any closing questions that they want to ask now, or as I say, more than happy for you to get in touch with Paula and I later.
So, sorry, it's Al from Edge Ministries here.
Hi.
Would it be possible to have an email distribution list as well for some of these documents?
Yeah, you mean for the other organisations, for the other projects?
Well, yeah, that you just send stuff out rather than WhatsApp. Obviously, because we have volunteers who've got access to email, but they're not all part of the WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
And we don't really want them to have to use their personal phone numbers for a project.
Absolutely. All of this will come to you via email, and all the links to the website will come to you via email. It was the suggestion around WhatsApp was really just because we get a lot of bulletins about from suppliers around stock. So it was just a quick way of getting that out to you directly. But that would only be for one person per organisation. It wouldn't be for a number of people.
Yeah, could we have that could there be an email distribution for that as well, rather than WhatsApp?
I can have it. We'll have a think of that back of house as to which is the best way of doing it. We've just found that with some things, WhatsApp is a quicker way of getting info out there. But we'll have a think and see what people prefer.
Okay, yeah, there'd be a distinct preference for email from our perspective, rather than WhatsApp.
All right, then. Thanks for letting us know. I can't see the whole list of participants now. So Paula, is there anyone else with a hand raised? No.
No.
All right. Do you mind just getting rid of the presentation just so we're back to a normal screen? Right. Oh, there you go. Thanks. I can actually see some people now. It feels strange when there's just you. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, everyone, for coming along. There's some really nice comments and useful feedback in the chat. And hopefully you'll sign up to one of the other webinars next year too. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Do you want to turn the recording off?
Just gonna do it now. Just